You ever just stare at a bunch of numbers and wish they'd just turn into a picture or something so you could actually get what they're trying to say? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to turn simple patterns into really powerful pictures that can, believe it or not, even help us see into the future. So I want to kick things off with a kind of wild question. Can you actually predict the future with a picture? I know, it sounds like something out of science fiction, but stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll see how a super simple drawing can show us patterns and tell us exactly where things are headed. All right, to figure that out, let's just forget about math completely for a minute. Let's start with a simple, real-world story. Just imagine you've decided to start saving money, and you put aside exactly 100 rupees every single week, no matter what. I mean, the pattern here is super obvious, right? After week 1, you've got 100. After week 2, 200. By the time you hit week 4, you're up to 400. It's totally consistent, super predictable, no curveballs here. Okay, but here's where things get really cool. We can see this pattern in a list, sure, but what happens if we actually try to, draw it? What does this steady saving habit actually look like when we turn it into a picture? So, the very first thing we gotta do to make our picture is just get our info organized. We can pop it into a simple table like this. Let's just call the number of weeks our X value, and our total savings, that'll be our Y value. You can see how for every week, X, there's a matching savings amount, Y. All right, now we're gonna take each of those pairs, week 1 and $100, week 2 and $200, and so on, and just treat them like dots on a map, or, well, a graph. Let's put them down and see what happens when we connect them. And bam, look at that. It's a perfectly straight line. This is that big aha moment, right? It just shows you how a constant, steady pattern in numbers creates this clean, predictable shape that you can literally see with your own eyes. So this is where we basically translate that story into the language of math. See on the left, that's our story. Our savings grow by 100 rupees every week. And on the right, that's the rule. Y equals 100x. It's just a super short mathematical way of saying the exact same thing. It's like the secret recipe for that straight line we just saw. And that little rule, well, it's got a fancy name, a linear equation. The clue is right there in the name, right? Linear. It's pretty much any equation that, when you draw it out, gives you a perfect straight line every single time. Okay, so right about now, you might be thinking, all right, that's a pretty cool trick, but so what? Why does it actually matter? Why bother turning a simple rule into a picture? And you know what? That is the most important question. Well, it matters a ton because our brains are just wired to get pictures way faster than abstract equations. That straight line on a graph, it's not just a line. It's a whole story you can understand in a split second. It lets a business see its growth, a scientist track an experiment, or an economist predict a trend, all instantly. It just turns all that complexity into something crystal clear. So, if you take away just one thing from all this, let it be this. A graph of a linear equation is always a straight line. No curves, no wiggles, no surprises. It just means there's a constant, predictable relationship going on. And pretty much every straight line like this has two main ingredients. The first is its slope, which is just a word for how steep it is. In our savings story, the slope was 100, right? Because our savings climbed by 100 rupees each week. The other part is the intercept, and that's simply the starting point. We started with 0 savings, so our line kicked off right at 0. Okay, so now that you can see how a simple, consistent pattern makes a straight line, I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. Look around your own world, your daily life, your job, your hobbies. Where else can you spot these straight line patterns hiding right out in the open?